Hey, welcome back to the channel. We are opening up the bin of our red wigglers. This is our lone red wiggler bin. And as we open it, we found a worm on top of the worm blanket. So we're gonna help that critter out. Just gonna try to gently toss him. Oh wow, look at it go. It's actually able to navigate the blanket pretty well. I'm just concerned about it drying out, so I'm going to try to, there we go. Got it tossed over there. I'm gonna take off the worm blanket temporarily, give it a little shake, and set it off to the side. And here we are underneath the worm blanket, and it looks really rich in here. I'm really happy with how it looks. You can see along the sides here, we've got good moisture content. If you look right in here, there's actually a fly hanging out right there. So we still have what appear to be fruit flies in the bin. On this side, you can see the condensation as well. So moisture-wise, it seems like we are doing well. That was one of the big takeaways that we had recently as we were working on this bin, was really improving the moisture content, and it feels really good. I was just working through this bin to navigate and see. And right here, you can see what looks like a little worm. Right there, we've got another one retreating. But this piece that I was actually touching appears to be, oh, look at that. It appears to be a piece of pineapple. And underneath it, there were a bunch of worms congregating. So it's really neat to see them gathering around. And that's one of the beautiful things about food, is that is a place where the worms gather. It tends to be a great breeding site as well. Not sure what this is. This actually looks like a broken piece of plastic that somehow made it into the bin. Not sure how that got there, so I'm gonna remove that. Glad I noticed that. That may have come with the chaff. And then we've got a little fly right there. You can see it on that leaf, or on the, yeah. So, and then we've got another piece right here of fruit. Appears to be well eaten for the most part. There's still some flesh in there. So I'll put that back down. But I feel fairly happy with the way things are in here. Oh, look at that. Another bunch of worms all congregating. This is really neat to see. So very happy with our bin. We are finding loads and loads of worms, and I think that is going to really help, or that leads me to believe that we're going to have a lot of young worms here soon too. So again, as I mentioned, when we added the moisture, the more moisture you have, I think that really favors the worm's reproduction as well. So it's looking really good. One thing that I also notice is absent, I'm sure they're in here, but I don't quite see them just charging the bin, is mites. So that is one of the beautiful things about taking advantage of the winter, really, is that in the winter you have the opportunity to feed heavier, to add more moisture without having the same explosion of flies that you would otherwise have in warmer months. So the bin is looking really nice. I'm really happy with where it is. You can see that there are some seeds, some seeds there. So, but the material is breaking down well and seems to really be integrating well. I don't see clumps of chaff that don't appear interspersed with everything else. So this is really neat to see. I'm gonna go ahead and put the worm blanket back over the top. But before I do, I'm actually going to sprinkle some of our grit, because as we know, grit aids in the worm's digestion. So I'm going to sprinkle that liberally over the top of the bin. All right, so they got their snowfall of grit. And I think we're leaving the worm bin in a good place right now. I'm gonna go ahead and put the worm blanket back on, and we will call it a day. As I do, I'd like to point out that the worm blanket is also a part of the ecosystem. So if we zoom in right here, got a roly-poly there. And sometimes we do have worms hanging out on the worm blanket itself. So I try to be somewhat careful with it as I put it back. Oh, I got a worm on it actually, right up in this corner. So yeah, the worm blanket seems to be integrating really well. I'm gonna go ahead and water the top of the worm blanket again, especially seeing how we had a worm over on top of it. And it's just, of course, gonna help with the overall moisture of the bin. So look at that worm slinking away over there in the corner of the bin. It is so neat to be able to observe the ecosystem of the bin. I know that we talk often about the worms themselves, but the bin is actually an ecosystem. And of course, the worms for our story are the focus, but they do exist here with microbes and with other relative macro decomposers such as earwigs and roly-polies and maybe even some millipedes, I don't know. But yeah, the bin is a neat little environment, and it's just neat to see it flourishing in the winter. So we'll go ahead and leave the bin with that level of watering. I feel like it's fairly sufficient. Nice little misting over the top of the worm blanket so so that that can continue to integrate into the rest of the bin. And with that, I will wish you a happy new year, as it's about to be 2025. Probably is when you actually begin watching this video. Here's one of our bin inhabitants enjoying the rainfall and possibly moving back into the underside of the worm blanket. So we will wish them a happy rest of their 2024, and we will see them next year. Oh, I just took out one of the inhabitants of the bin here. There was a fly that was hanging out on the top there. So thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video when we